1401 An ordinary person's daily life 7/8 After seeing the lady disappear for a few seconds, Pacheco turned his head and said to Barton, "Let's go back to the foundation." "Aren't we going to the suburbs?" Barton asked subconsciously. Pacheco said with a smile, "Didn't you already give the bottle away? We no longer have a reason to go to the suburbs." Perhaps his true aim was for us to hand the bottle to the lady of the Tamara family. What he said before were all lies. Of course, this has nothing to do with us. Next, there is no innocent party among them, so it doesn't matter who dies. All we need to do is perform a certain amount of surveillance to prevent their battle from affecting ordinary people. This will be handled by the police, not by the Foundation or the Compliance Department. Vernal doesn't look like he's capable of this kind of devious plot. Barton mumbled. He didn't ask further and turned to walk out the door. Frankly speaking, returning to the Foundation was the answer he wanted to hear the most. It was just a spur of the moment when he asked if they were heading to the suburbs. It was an old habit he hadn't overcome for many years. After returning to the Foundation, Barton spent the rest of the day feeling rather uneasy. He went through the menial, repetitive routine until evening came. "I originally felt that life was too boring, but I now realize that a monotonous life is so precious. Sigh, I only hope that nothing unexpected happens like in the afternoon. May the Lord bless me." Barton stopped at his doorstep, stretched out his right hand, clenched his fist, and gently struck his left chest. After finishing his prayer, he opened the door and entered. He took off his hat, coat, and handed them over to his wife who had come forward. "What happened to Vernal?" his wife asked carefully. Barton replied calmly in both tone and expression, "He offended some people and was being followed. The police have taken over this matter. In the future, if Vernal visits again, don't let him in. Remember to send someone to inform the police." Barton's wife heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that the police had intervened. "All right." After dinner, Barton played with his children for a while before finding an excuse to go to his study and sit near the window. He needed a private space to completely calm his emotions and walk out of the panic brought about by the incident with Vernal. As such, Barton took out a cigarette from his drawer and put it to his mouth. He wasn't addicted to smoking, but he had to socialize sometimes, so he prepared a pack of cigarettes at home and on his body. He lit the matchstick, lit the cigarette, and took a deep suck. He then leaned back in his chair and watched the smoke coming out from his mouth and nose. The white gas quickly spread out in all directions, making Barton suddenly think of the fog coming out of Vernal's mouth and nose. He vaguely smelled the faint scent of blood. To Barton, this wasn't a very strange discovery. After all, Vernal had stayed in his study before, so he definitely left some traces behind. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect him. Barton didn't smell it before, but because he was too nervous and flustered, his attention had been focused on the whereabouts of Vernal and the words he had left behind. Of course, the smell of blood in the study room was very faint. It was also one of the reasons why it couldn't compare with the hotel room and the burnt ruins at all. As the smoke from the cigarette spread, Barton suddenly narrowed his eyes. He had an ominous feeling. In an instant, the pale white gas shrank in a certain direction with the smell of blood, forming a figure. The figure's upper body was normal with an iconic red nose. It was none other than the archaeologist, Vernal. The lower half of his body was completely shrouded in air, like a monster drawn out by smoke. "The Vernal," Barton shouted, almost suffocating. His voice reverberated in the study, unable to penetrate the wall. I've already acquired an immortal body. As long as there's still some fog left, I'll be able to come back to life." Vernal burst into laughter. Compared to before, his expression became more and more crazed, and his eyes seemed to be slightly palish white. He was already dead just now. This thought subconsciously flashed across Barton's mind. Then, he forced himself to remain calm and said, "What's the matter?" As he spoke, Barton wanted to stand up on impulse, but sadly he discovered that his body was covered by a cold and thin fog, and he had lost most of his senses. Vernal stopped laughing and looked into Barton's eyes. He said word by word, "You didn't bring that bottle to the suburbs." Although Barton had a rash personality, he knew that he couldn't answer this question directly. He quickly thought of a solution. A few seconds later, he changed the topic before he spoke again. "Why did you convert to believing in that entity? Aren't you a loyal believer of the Lord?" Vernal fell silent for a moment before his expression gradually became fervent. "I've seen an even larger world, a much more vast world. Compared to that, the planet we are currently living on is like a grain of sand in the desert. There are innumerable civilizations, ancient ruins left behind from hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, or even tens of millions of years ago. This is what the universe looks like." Seeing that his question only made things worse, Barton fell silent. He thought about whether there were any non-sensitive topics that would garner Vernal's interest. He slowly took a deep breath and said, "Other than the altar, what else did you discover at the Fourth Epoch ruin? How much do you know of the Tamara family?" Vernal's eyes lit up. The Tamara family had its coat of arms replaced once. This means that they had encountered something rather major. As he spoke, the archaeologist who was just an upper half of a body had extended his right hand. Using the smoke, he drew out two symbols in midair. The first symbol was formed from a layer of brambles, a shield wall, and a long sword that was vertically inserted into them from above. The main part of the second symbol was a pair of double doors that swung open, and the gap in the middle was taken up by the vertical longsword. As a barely famous historian, Barton immediately thought of the words of the Tamara family member, "They are them. We are us." Did the Tamara family fracture? Barton blurted out. "I thought so," said Vernal, smiling with gratification. Then he leaned close to Barton, his face burning with zeal. "Your brain is more tempting than I imagined, and it's the best supplement for me. Relax a little. Your mind will merge with mine, and we can witness those great civilizations together." He looked very weak and eager to recover. Barton's heart thumped wildly, and he tried his best to avoid the other party. But no matter how hard he struggled, his body seemed to freeze. He was unable to move at all. Just as he was about to close his eyes, Barton suddenly felt a sharp pain in his right hand, and he immediately regained consciousness. The pale white fog in front of him and the monster-like Vernal disappeared as if they had never appeared. Barton lowered his head numbly and saw that the cigarette in his right hand had reached its limit, burning his fingers. It was a dream. But I found it so realistic. Barton threw away the cigarette in his hand and instinctively stood up using his spirituality and walked to the window. He looked out at the streets and saw that under the street lamps, many pedestrians were passing by in the darkness, wanting to rush home as soon as possible. Among them, an ordinary golden retriever was taking a casual stroll. Chapter 1402 An Ordinary Person's Daily Life 8/8 The scene in front of him was so ordinary that Barton didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. Although he vaguely felt that there was something familiar about it, he didn't think that it was worth puzzling over it. How could a daily scene not be familiar? His gaze shifted as he looked up into the sky. He saw the crimson moon quietly hanging in the sky, shining with light, causing his mood to settle down involuntarily. At that moment, Barton seemed to have let go of an invisible burden. His body and mind were unusually relaxed. He no longer had the same fear, anxiety, and frustration from before. His spiritual intuition told him that Vernal's matter had come to an end, and it would no longer affect his life. Holy Lord of Storms. Lord, thank you for your blessings. Barton immediately struck his left chest with his right fist and muttered to himself. Without anxiety and tension, he felt exhaustion overwhelm him like a flood. It surged from the depths of his soul, drowning his brain, limbs, and every cell in his body. Barton couldn't help but use the back of his hand to cover his mouth. He yawned, but a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He didn't stay in the study any longer and turned around to leave. He returned to the bedroom and took a pleasant bath, enjoying himself as he drank a small glass of red wine. That night, Barton didn't dream anymore and slept exceptionally soundly. When he woke up in the morning, his mind was relaxed and his spirits were rising. It was as if he had obtained a new life. Looking at his wife who was still sleeping beside him, Barton carefully got up, changed his clothes, and walked around the neighborhood. He had never realized how wonderful his district was. The air was fresh, the environment was peaceful, and the scenery was pleasant. Even the pedestrians were cultured. This made Barton's mood even better. Once again, he deeply understood that the matter with Vernal had come to an end, and he had returned to his normal, peaceful life. He maintained his mood and went home to enjoy breakfast with his wife and children. During this process, he even told his wife about a joke he read in the newspapers and fulfilled his children's tiny requests. Seeing the smiles on his wife and children's faces, Barton felt satisfied. Then, he put on his coat, hat, and cane before heading out to take a trackless public carriage. He walked all the way to the Lone Relic Search and Preservation Foundation at the periphery of the city. After entering his office, Barton found his usual daily pace. He didn't get right down to work but prepared the special herbal black tea he had prepared himself. With the black tea, he leisurely read the newspapers that he didn't subscribe to at home. Then, he picked up the letters and documents he had received and read them. Such a process and pace made him feel exceptionally comfortable. The only difference was that Barton was still a little worried about receiving yet another letter from Vernal. However, this concern didn't turn into a reality. About 15 minutes later, someone knocked on his office door. "Please come in." Barton picked up his cup and took a sip of his black tea. The person who entered was the ordinary-looking deputy director of the compliance department, Pacheco Duane, who didn't have any characteristics that stood out but still managed to give off a warm and friendly vibe. "Did you sleep well last night?" asked Pacheco as he stood at the door. "Excellent." Barton didn't hide anything. Pacheco nodded and smiled. "Seems like you've really gotten rid of the effects from this matter." Barton didn't mention that nightmare he had had. Instead, he asked, "What about you?" "I also slept very well," Pacheco replied with a smile. "The police have already taken over this matter. It said that they found Vernal last night. Unfortunately, he apparently encountered some misfortune. Poor soul, I hope he can rest in peace." Barton didn't pray that the Lord would protect him, because Vernal had already abandoned his faith in the Lord of Storms. If there were really any blessings to be bestowed, then it would definitely be lightning blasts and storms. With that said, he thought of the help that Pacheco had provided and his friendly attitude. He said, "Shall we have lunch together later?" "Are you treating?" asked Pacheco with a smile. "Of course. It's a pleasure to meet a friend like you." Barton stood up and bowed gentlemanly. Pacheco nodded slightly and said, "Then I'll wait at the compliance department for your invitation." "Before 12? "No problem." Apart from being grateful to him, Barton also felt that knowing the deputy director of the compliance department would be a great help to his future work. Furthermore, he believed that Pacheco was just like him. In some aspects, he was stronger than the average person. After seeing Pacheco leave his office, Barton sat down again, silently and slowly exhaling. As an ordinary person with a normal IQ, he could tell that the matters regarding Vernal were very strange. It involved the problems of mysticism and religion. In addition, he was actually very interested in the details of the Tamara family's fracturing and the secret history of the Fourth Epoch, and the details to which Vernal had encountered. However, he knew that he couldn't probe further. It was thanks to the great luck of an ordinary person for him to be able to see the tip of the iceberg without dying. If he wanted to figure out the situation beneath the water surface, he would definitely drown to death. The past archaeological expedition made Barton not dare to take the risk, nor did he want to take any risks. To him, curiosity was probably the most worthless thing. After pondering for a while, Barton continued his work. When it was almost noon, he tidied the items on the table and picked up the coat and top hat hanging on the clothes rack. He left the office and walked to the door of the compliance department. Knock. 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 Barton knocked on the wooden door in front of him. Soon, Pacheco opened the door and glanced at Barton. "Give me another 5 minutes. I still have some matters to settle." "No problem." Barton didn't mind at all. "Come on in and wait," Pacheco said casually. Barton didn't stand on ceremony. He walked into the compliance department and found a chair to sit down. As his gaze moved, he realized that there were about 6 to 7 members in the compliance department. Just then, he heard someone knocking on the door. Without waiting for the employees of the compliance department to get up, the door creaked open. The first to enter was the vice president of the Lone Relic Search and Preservation Foundation. He was a lively old man. He looked around and paused for a second before saying, "Seems like everyone is here. Let me introduce you to a new colleague." As he spoke, the vice president took a few steps forward, revealing the new employee of the compliance department behind him. She was a woman in her 20s. She had a high nose bridge and a pair of moist, full lips. Her eyes were dark gray and her face was pretty. She wore a common blue dress. However, there was no expression on her face. She didn't look like a real person. She looked more like a wax statue. The gazes of Barton and Pacheco froze. The vice president continued smiling and said, "She will be like Pacheco, taking on the role of the deputy director of the compliance department. Her name is Alicia Tamara." The end to an ordinary person's daily life. Author's note: there's no way to go in depth in the end to an ordinary person's daily life. This is just a showcase of the tip of the iceberg without going deep. Yes, it's also an experimental form of narrating the story. If the ending is meant to have the effect of horror without any consideration of values, then it will be written as such. As he spoke, the vice president took a few steps forward, revealing the new employee of the compliance department behind him. She was a woman in her 20s. She had a high nose bridge and a pair of moist, full lips. Her eyes were dark gray and her face was pretty. She wore a common blue dress. The gazes of Barton and Pacheco froze. At that moment, the lady's lips curled up as she said with a radiant smile, "Hello everyone. I'm Alicia Tamara. 1403 in modern day. I am an ordinary company employee. My greatest joy every day is that I can clock off on time. This isn't something that can be realized often, because it's only from working overtime that I can receive a higher salary. Only from doing so can I gain a little sense of security. In this aspect, my boss isn't that bad. At the very least, he'll pay for overtime, unlike the company next door who only knows how to shout slogans. All they do is pump up the employees without sparing a single penny. Based on my observations, they aren't far from closing down, because their boss is already trying to sell off second-hand computers on his WeChat moments. This isn't something I discovered. I'm not friends with their boss on WeChat. This comes from the mouths of the employees. In this world, it's sexist to say that there's gossip where there are women present. Instead, there's gossip wherever there are people. Of course, I don't have absolute confidence in those words. There was once a time when a dog and a cat made me feel that they were watching us humans with amusement and gossiping. Just like now, the golden retriever that always appears near my office building is sitting at the entrance. Seriously, looking at the grooming of its fur, it doesn't look like it doesn't have a master. How can someone walk a dog without a leash? This kind of person shouldn't be rearing pets. They have no morals at all. There's a necklace around its neck, a rope, and the end of the rope is in its mouth. As I mumble, I recall of an emoticon that has been trending online. It has strong self-control. I snort and cast my eyes beyond the glass doors. The sky is so dark, and large beads of raindrops pummel through the stuffy humid environment and crash into the ground. It rained so quickly. At this moment, I want to question God. It hadn't been easy for me to get off work on time today. To think that I would encounter a storm, furthermore, I didn't bring an umbrella with me. Back when I was in the office, I noticed that it was dark and gloomy outside and knew that a storm was coming, but I thought I had enough time to get to the bus stop. By the time my bus arrives close to my rented apartment, the rain should have stopped or be reduced to a drizzle. After all, it's summer and the rain comes and goes quickly. I can't help but raise my middle finger at God. Helpless, I turn my head to look at the golden retriever by the door and casually say, "You didn't bring an umbrella as well." That was just a self-deprecating comment of mine, but the next moment I'm shocked. The big golden retriever rolls its eyes at me. It rolled its eyes at me. Its eyes. I knew it. This dog has some humanity in it. I look away and mutter. I examine the storm outside again, wondering if I should just run to the bus stop. I sniff and, considering how I haven't recovered fully from my cold, I hold back the urge. Sigh, as a grown man, isn't it normal to only bring a phone, a transportation card, and a key access card? Who would carry a bag and have an umbrella inside for no reason? These days, I don't even keep change on me. Forget it. I'll just go back to the office and kill time. I'll browse through websites and wait until the rain becomes a drizzle before I leave. If it really doesn't pan out as I expect, then I'll order takeout. I sigh and turn to walk to the elevator. Suddenly, I notice an additional vending machine in one corner of the building lobby. Summon coffee. I suddenly feel like drinking something. I did as I thought. With the financial freedom to buy beverages below 10 yuan, I confidently walk over to the vending machine and take a gander at the beverages on sale. Mizone, Nongfu Spring, Master Kong Iced Tea, and Jasmine Tea. I notice something strange when I look through the beverages on display. It's a box, placed in the corner of the topmost row of beverages. What the hell? I glance at the screen and read the scrolling images and text. Soon, I understand what the box is. It's the recently popular real-life loot box. There are loot boxes even with beverages these days. It really is a tax on one's intelligence. Gambling is indeed exciting. I mutter as I scan what possible contents might be in the loot box. D*MN, this is interesting. This loot box is actually related to a new beverage product. It has never appeared on the market before, the bottle has a unique design, and the names are very stylish. Seer, Apprentice, Bard, Warrior, Sleepless, I like that. There's also Lawyer, Assassin, Hunter. I glance at the price of the loot box and realize that it only costs 5 yuan. It's cheaper than I expected, so I decide to give it a try. Life is short, so why not give it a try? As a slave of society, the daily working hours go from 9 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excluding work time, eating, sleeping, and commuting, there's very little free time for leisure. Even the monotonous life would get to robots with this happening day after day. It's just so boring. The property prices are even more depressing. They make you lose the motivation to work hard. One becomes dejected or just takes on a mantra of letting things come as they may. To be able to find a new thrill in cheap forms of entertainment other than novels, comics, videos, and games can be considered a surprise. Taking my phone out, I start scanning the QR code. At the same time, I mutter a few names in my mind: Seer, Sleepless, Spectator, Assassin. These are the beverages that I hope for the most from the loot box. I will be satisfied as long as it's one of them. After paying, the vending machine seemed to be stuck. It didn't move for quite a while. I suspect that it's trying to cheat me. Is it packaging it on the spot? I complain as I seriously consider making a complaint. At this moment, the vending machine finally showed signs of movement. The loot box is pushed out and falls to the dispenser with a thud. It's time to witness a miracle. I bend down and push open the sliding panel of the dispenser and pull out the loot box that I really can't consider exquisitely packaged. After I quickly open the box, I see a bottle wrapped in coiled snakes. Based on what I saw on the screen, I'm able to recognize which drink it is. As an Assassin's Creed gamer, this is an outcome I've been looking forward to. Assassin 1404 in modern day too nice. I can't help but snap my fingers with my free hand. As someone who has never even won a consolation prize, to be able to get a beverage I wanted is simply exciting. Furthermore, the most important thing is that I only spent 5 yuan. Otherwise, I'll definitely hit it trying it 10 times in a row. I need to keep this bottle well. I put away my phone, open the can, and take a mouthful of the beverage. In the next second, my head suddenly turns a little numb. I feel like everything around me has become abnormally blurry, and my entire body becomes light as though I'm about to turn into a feather. In this strange feeling, I vaguely hear muffled ravings that sound like fingernails scratching a blackboard. The taste of a demoness ain't bad, the taste of a demoness ain't bad, the taste of a demoness ain't bad. This brings an indescribable pain, and I lose all my ability to think. By the time the torture ends, I can't remember what happened towards the end, but I know that my face must have been very twisted and hideous. F***CK. What the hell is this beverage? I turn angrily to look at the vending machine. At that moment, my head is spinning, and my eyes swell. I have the feeling that I'll collapse at any moment. However, this doesn't stop me from discovering a fact: the vending machine that still existed moments ago has disappeared. Holy sh**t. I can't take my spinning head and the soreness in my eyes. I quickly remove my glasses and prepare to squeeze my nose bridge. However, just as I take off my glasses, everything returns to normal. My head doesn't spin and my eyes no longer ache. My vision remains clear, clearer than even before my myopia. I scan my surroundings, and every detail is reflected in my eyes. Even a dozen meters away, a mosquito silently suspended on a black stone is vividly clear. I've recovered from my short-sightedness. That bout of fainting was because of the glasses. I glance around once more, and for some reason, I feel that my vision has exceeded that of a normal person's. As I try hard to recall, I gradually come to a realization: I can change part of my body's structure for a short amount of time. I can obtain feather-like lightness. Even if I jump from high above, I won't be hurt. A hawk-like vision that allows me to see through the darkness. I'm good at hiding in the shadows, my steps are nimble and my body is agile. The instantaneous strength I can release is tremendous. I can concentrate all my strength into a single strike. As I suspect that the assassin beverage that I had just taken was actually some mental drug that gives me hallucinations, I also feel that something might have really happened due to my recovery from short-sightedness. I put on my glasses again and realize that it does leave me faint. No way this is real. The vending machine is gone. It was still there a moment ago. Did I have a fortuitous encounter? I cast my gaze out of the lobby and see people carrying umbrellas or have their backpacks raised in the heavy rain, running about in a hurry. Before this, I could only barely see silhouettes in this scene, but now, I can confirm the features of every pedestrian. Of course, the prerequisite is that they aren't wearing face masks. A fortuitous encounter. Don't tell me it's really a fortuitous encounter. I would occasionally fantasize about having a fortuitous encounter, for example, striking lottery worth 10 to 20 million yuan, but I never expected such a day. Moreover, it's the assassin ability that I wanted the most. Even if it's fake, just healing my short-sightedness makes me give this fortuitous encounter full marks. I control my excitement and joy and carefully examine my body. After confirming that there's nothing wrong with it, I close my eyes and mutter to myself, "Thank you, God. Thank you, vending machine. Thank you, loot box." I have to find a place to test the leap of faith. I've recovered from my cold too. I'll think further about it after the rain stops. I look around again, eager to test what it means to have dexterous steps, agility, and explosive power. Of course, as a normal person with regular intelligence, I know that I should avoid others in times like this, lest I expose my fortuitous encounter and create a series of unknown developments. At this moment, due to the heavy rain, the people inside the building either have to work overtime or have already left. Those without umbrellas either have realized the reality of things or haven't left the office. They either return to the office or bravely run to the bus stop. Therefore, other than the 2 security guards who have their backs to me, there's no one else in the lobby. I can give it a try. Yes, there's a dog. Heh, so what if I'm seen by a dog? It doesn't understand anything. Would it be able to tell anyone? I immediately widen my pace and run toward the elevator. I can feel the changes in my body. Using a machine as an analogy, my body used to be a rusted machine that had been soaked in water. Now, it was a new, lubricated machine. A few steps later, I suddenly remember something. Previously, several companies in the building had been a victim of theft. Through the surveillance cameras, the police found the criminal. In other words, there are surveillance cameras in the lobby, and my every move is being monitored. Bear with it, bear with it. I stop my attempts and turn back to look at the spots where there might be cameras. My gaze sweeps across the huge golden retriever at the door. It's still impassively looking at the rain outside. I'll wait till I get home. I let out a slow sigh, hold my glasses, and head for the elevator. I heard from my gossiping colleagues at the company that the theft was done by a young rag-and-bone man from nearby. In the past, this guy was the son of a rich man. Later on, his family waned, and he could only make a living being a rag-and-bone man. However, the police never found him. I take the elevator and go back to the 10th floor. My mind is filled with how to be an assassin hiding in the city's shadows. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. I mutter a few slogans and exit the elevator. Glancing around, I see a figure standing by the window at the elevator lobby. He has rare, long silver hair. His features are very distinctive. So I recognize him. He's the vice president of the company next door, whose surname is Wu. Of course, this might only be his Chinese surname, because he's either a foreigner or a mixed blood. It's such a pity that this guy isn't an idol. He's so good-looking that even the girls in our company often try to, coincidentally, bump into him. They give him flowers and food. It's like he has everything easy in the game of life. The boss next door really has bad taste. With such an employee, I'd have long changed to running an entertainment company. I don't know what the company next door is busy with every day. Until today, I don't even know what they do. All of them are garrulous, completely unlike Roseanne when she's joking. They're probably doing multi-level marketing, right? I quickly retract my gaze and not greet him. After all, we're not familiar with each other. But just at this moment, I see that guy turn around and walk over. 14:05 in modern day 3. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be nervous if the vice president from next door came to me. After all, I'm not under his jurisdiction. And I'm not a girl either. My sexual orientation is very normal. No matter how good he looks, it has nothing to do with me. I'm even a little jealous. But now, I've just drunk a bottle of some strange beverage of unknown origins and obtained the abilities of an assassin I've been dreaming of. No matter who comes near me, I can't help but feel uneasy, afraid that others might discover my secret. At this moment, the silver-haired guy stops in front of me and says coldly, "Do you have a lighter?" This isn't an attitude a person should have when asking someone for help. Why are you looking at someone like you're looking at an object? Also, the greatest hobby of youngsters nowadays is to stay up late instead of smoking. Why would I bring a lighter with me? No. I shake my head. At the same time, I sigh inwardly. If the female colleagues in my company find out that the handsome vice president next door smokes, they would definitely have their fantasies crushed. This vice president's appearance and temperament easily makes one believe he's some untainted immortal. It's impossible to associate him with vices like smoking. With this in mind, I can't help but ask casually, smoking? The vice president, who has long silver hair and a beautiful face, raises his right hand, revealing a cigarette between his fingers. People are under the impression that you don't smoke, I reply with a smile. As a slave of society, it's normal for me not to be afraid of the vice president of the company next door. However, ensuring a cordial relationship is almost definite. After all, one has no idea when they will need to job hop and become their subordinate. Having one more friend means one more outlet. Of course, if this gentleman keeps staying in the company next door, then I won't consider such matters. I don't want to enter a weirdo company that just yells slogans 800 times a day. However, if they're willing to pay me a salary of more than 30,000 yuan a month, I dare say that I'll jump ship today. This is the business world, and the first principle is to not go against money. Anyway, as long as I don't violate the law and do not commit crimes, what's wrong with shouting slogans? If I get paid 100 yuan with every shout, I can shout until I make the company go bankrupt. Hearing my words, the vice president seems to fall silent for a moment before saying, "A friend of mine taught me. When it comes to vices like smoking, who doesn't get introduced to it by friends? Only a small number of parents will lead their children astray." Just as I lampoon inwardly, the vice president next door says in fluent Mandarin, "He's been dead for many years." "I'm sorry," I respond reflexively. After that, I find it strange. "Why are you telling me this?" This vice president doesn't look too smart. Since we aren't familiar with each other, I exchange a few pleasantries and stop. I'm too lazy to bother. I point to the corridor leading to my workplace. I have matters to tend to. The vice president nods without any change in expression. He turns around and walks back to the window by the elevator lobby, as if he's watching the rainy scene below. I leave the elevator lobby and take a right turn into my workplace and head to the office where my department is located. They're all gone. They took all the umbrellas. I switch on the lights and scan the room. That's right. It hadn't rained when clocking off at regular hours. I left 10 minutes later and happened to be caught in the rain. Seeing that there was no one in the office, my thoughts became active. I originally thought of watching videos in the office, checking out the young ladies dancing indoors and finding inspiration from live eating broadcasts to figure out what to eat for dinner. But now, I'm very restless, and I want to test out the various abilities of an assassin. Among them, the thing that attracts me the most is leap of faith, no, feather drop spell. No, that's not right either. Who knows what it's called? In short, it's the ability to temporarily change my body structure and land on the ground like a light feather. This is undoubtedly the most surreal ability of assassins. Of course, it is also equally important to me that I've had my short-sightedness cured and gained excellent vision. I have to give it a try. I slip my glasses into my pocket and dash to the side window of the big office. It faces a small alley. There's a refuse room that's erected there and no one usually walks past it, let alone when it's heavily raining now. 10 stories, an empty alley. It's the best place to test the leap of faith. I open the window and cast my gaze down. There are no signs of any pedestrians in the heavy rain. The roads are bleak and gloomy. It's dark everywhere. The refuse room looks like a small hand could cover it from the 10th floor. Forget it. It's better to find somewhere lower for the first test. Just as I reveal an embarrassed and polite smile, I hear a voice behind me. "What are you doing?" Startled, I turn quickly. Then, I see my boss. He had walked into the large office with one hand in his pocket at some point in time. He's looking at me. "Mr. Huang, I'm checking to see if the rain has stopped." I quickly think of one reason. My president's surname is Huang, with the first name Tao, a very handsome, fashionable man. At the same time, he's a strange man who became a father at the age of 18. His daughter has already started college this year. He's only 36 years old and is still swimming through the gals. He stays on the periphery amidst the embrace of news anchors and actresses. CEO Huang doesn't seem to have any doubts about my reason. He nods and says, "You didn't bring an umbrella? The more you live, the younger you become." Glancing at the president's hair which had been dyed chestnut, I honestly reply, "Don't have such a habit." CEO Huang lifts his hand and strokes his chin. "I have a few spare umbrellas in my office. Come over and take one." "You prepared so many?" I ask in a respectful tone. After all, he's the one paying my salary, and it's quite sizable. CEO Huang smiles and says, "It's from the few ladies from before. As you know, they always like to bring umbrellas with them. You've extended the battlefield of your flings to the office? Didn't you say that the thing you're afraid of the most is letting your daughter know about this? Doesn't your daughter visit your office every week?" I'm first left surprised before nodding. "All right." CEO Huang doesn't say anything else as he turns and walks towards the door. The way he's standing and how his body is posed gives me a strange feeling. I believe that if I were to seize this opportunity and unleash my full strength, I'll definitely be able to backstab him. Is this an assassin's instinct? Just as I have this thought, I see CEO Huang stop in his tracks and turn his head back. Did he sense my ill intent? My body stiffens. CEO Huang seems to be deep in thought as he slowly asks, "How's your accent?" "Passable," I mutter carelessly. CEO Huang nods. "Help me pick up a VIP at the airport tomorrow morning. I'll get old AI to send you the details." "Okay." I don't dare to say no. After agreeing, I ask, "Mr. Huang, the VIP is a foreigner?" "Yes." CEO Huang gives an affirmative reply. At the mention of this topic, I can't help but ask, "Mr. Huang, why are there so many foreigners around us? We even have to come up with a foreign name in the company?" CEO Huang leans back slightly and says, "What is an international metropolitan city? This is it." Chapter 1406 In modern day 4 After borrowing an umbrella from CEO Huang, I decided to immediately leave the company and return to my rented apartment. I plan on testing out my newfound assassin powers in what's considered the safest environment. I live in those old districts that haven't been spruced up. I spend nearly an hour commuting via public transport. The place is filled with old and shabby houses. It's completely different from the high-end buildings found in the new city districts. But living here is more convenient. Besides, the rent is quite cheap. Since I'm clocked off on the dot today, and there wasn't much of a delay during the journey back and forth, it's still not yet 6 o'clock. Even if I settle my dinner near my neighborhood, I'll arrive home before 7 o'clock. It's in line with the habits of a modern person. Therefore, I didn't consider settling my dinner near the office. Instead, I rushed to the bus stop with my umbrella. This umbrella is colorful, and it has rabbit ears on it. It really isn't suitable for a stealthy man like me. I look up and run out the door. One has to bow when under the umbrella after all. By now, the storm has gone on for about 10 minutes, and the ground is beginning to pond. If it were in the past, I would have stepped into a puddle and stained my shoes and pants with dirt and mud. But now, my feet are deft, sharp, accurate, and each step is light. I manage to keep my pants and shoes clean in the rain. As expected of an assassin. I glance at the bus stop that's just a few feet away from me. Just as I'm about to cross the non-motor vehicle lane, I suddenly see a man walk past me without an umbrella or raincoat. His hair is already wet under the heavy rain. His clothes cling to his body as they droop down, water streaming down continuously. His image is so pathetic, yet his posture remains so relaxed. He isn't running at all. All he does is keep his hands in his pockets as he strolls forward. Impressive. Due to the rain and the dark sky, I'm unable to discern his face clearly. I only watch him walk past me. Perhaps sensing my gaze, the man suddenly takes out a cigarette from his pocket and puts it in his mouth. He mutters softly, "Wimp." I dig my ear with my empty right hand. Who is he talking about? Forget it, I won't argue with a lunatic. I'm in a good mood today. I ignore the man, step up to the bus stop platform, and wait for my bus to arrive. My luck isn't bad. It takes about a minute before bus 35 arrives. Taking out my travel card, I close the umbrella and rush forward. Hearing the beep, I suddenly feel a little emotional. If only the travel card can be stored on my phone's NFC, it would be more convenient. I only need to bring my phone when I'm out. Door locks, the subway, and public buses can all be resolved through my cell phone. If I switch my door lock to a fingerprint one, I don't even need to bring my keys with me. That's what I call convenience. As I think about it, I find a seat. Perhaps due to the heavy rain and that it's some time after peak hour, there are still quite a few empty seats left on the usually crowded bus. Unfortunately, the prerequisite for switching to a fingerprint lock is for me to have my own house. My fantasy is defeated by cold reality. In this international metropolitan city, with my salary, I don't know when I'll be able to afford a house if I don't get help from my parents. I can't help but wonder how to use the powers of an assassin to make money. Take on assassin missions? No, it's illegal. Although I'm a real, powerful assassin now, I can't beat bullets. Besides, I don't know where to take on such missions either. It's against the law to break into houses and steal. Besides, other people don't have their money dropping from trees. Unless I can lock onto a corrupt official, I have agile footwork, nimble limbs, and eagle-like vision. How do I earn money with these? Be a security guard. But how much can a security guard earn every month? Or, try dancing. With this kind of control over the body, my dancing will definitely be very impressive. Then, I can do a live broadcast. However, I'm tone deaf. As I think through the possibilities, I suddenly feel a little depressed. It wasn't easy for a miracle to fall from the sky, yet I can't use it to improve my life or earn lots of money with it. It cured my short-sightedness at the very least. It's a medical miracle that can't be bought even with millions. I exhale slowly and tell myself not to be too greedy. At this moment, I suddenly feel a chill. It's not from the air conditioning, but a coldness that pierced through my skin. I turn my head and look to the side, only to see that there's no one sitting there. My instincts tell me that there's something invisible there. Hiss, a ghost. I can sense ghosts after becoming an assassin. I first widen my eyes and carefully observe. Then, I retract my gaze and pretend not to notice anything. If the ghost realizes that I can see it, I'm doomed. Assassins do not have abilities to deal with ghosts. My body uncontrollably tenses up. I try to act as if nothing had happened, but I'm helpless. The chilly feeling grows stronger, as if it's getting closer and closer to me. I look straight, but a vision appears in my mind. A blurry man with a bluish-black face draws nearer and nearer to me. He leans to my ear and blows his breath on my face to test my reaction. This cold lasts for nearly a minute before it gradually weakens. Before long, the bus stops and the two doors open at the same time. The cold and terrifying aura disappears. The ghost reached its stop. Even ghosts use buses to travel. Amazing. I relax and have a better understanding of the changes in my body. I'm not surprised that there are ghosts because I have become an assassin. Everything is possible. The bus stops along the way and I arrived at Ankang North Road 50 minutes later. My rental apartment is nearby. Since the storm has stopped, I don't use the umbrella. I get off the bus and go straight for the place I had planned on eating while on the bus. Yuzhou stir fry. There are many old shops in this old district that serve delicious food at cheap prices. This is one of them. If it weren't for the rain earlier, many tables would be set up outside. Inside the store, I casually glance around. I smile as I walk to a table and sit opposite a young man. He ordered only a bowl of Wuxia shredded pork and white rice. He's looking at his phone while eating with full focus. Not on a date. I rap the table, startling the guy opposite me. He's my childhood friend, Peng Deng. Recently, he's also been working in this international metropolitan city. As I helped him find a place to live, we ended up living very close to each other. It's all in the same neighborhood. How can I have a date when the weather is so bad? Peng Deng looks up at me. He doesn't put down his phone and asks, "Want to play some ranked matches tonight?" I'm not free. I have no intention of playing games right now. I just want to try the leap of faith. Peng Deng studies me intently for a few seconds. You have a girlfriend? I hope so too. I turn my head to the boss. 1 stir-fried sliced beef, 1 tomato fried egg soup, and a bottle of Coke. When something good befalls one, celebrations are in order. Chapter 1407 In modern day 5. Upon hearing my reply, Peng Deng lowered his head again. As he looks at his phone, he feeds himself and casually asks, "What else is there after work? Don't you work overtime if something's up?" Good question. I lean the umbrella and seriously think of an excuse. Peng Deng is a typical smartphone zombie who doesn't even focus on eating. Most of his attention is on his cell phone, but he's actually a very sharp person. He's good at capturing details and can always easily see through my lies. Of course, most of those lies were a product of not putting enough thought into it. They're more like jokes. I can't tell him that I'm trying to jump off a building, right? After some thought, I rap the table. My boss wants me to pick up a foreign guest at the airport tomorrow. And he'll only give me the details at night. I'll have to make some preparations. I need to practice my accent and contact a driver to confirm the schedule. It's plenty of work. Yeah, Peng Deng takes a bite of rice and the meat shreds before swallowing it. Then, he asks with a smile, "The Casanova boss you mentioned before?" I never said that. I outright deny Peng Deng's claim. When he looked up at me, I smiled. I said he fooled around. You mustn't make mistakes when passing judgment. TCH. Peng Deng replies before looking down at his phone. Before long, the dishes I ordered are served. One is stir-fried sliced beef, and the other is tomato fried egg soup. The oil on the former glistened, and the aroma of celery perfectly fused with the beef's aroma. The meat was very tender, and its juices were salty, but not excessive. The sauce was filled with flavors, and with just one plate of this meat, I could finish it with 3 bowls of rice. The tomato fried egg soup is part of Sichuan cuisine. Lard is used first. After it's heated up, beaten eggs with water and salt are added to the mix until it's completely cooked. This way, the fried eggs would be fluffier, and there will be a certain level of saltiness to it. Following that, water and processed tomatoes are put in, along with a few green vegetables. Finally, the soup will have the obvious fragrance of oil and eggs, mixed with the sweet and sourness of tomatoes. The freshness of the green vegetables make the soup have the delight of a meat soup, but without the cloyed taste at all. Just as I drink a bowl of delicious egg soup, the boss walks over with a bowl of rice and a bottle of cold Coke. Ice cock. I can't help laughing inwardly as I heard his accent. Considering that I have to jump off a building later, it wouldn't be good to eat too much. I ultimately only have 2 bowls of rice. Of course, I definitely wouldn't waste the meat and eggs. At this moment, Peng Deng still has a third of his food left. Don't use your phone while eating, don't eat while using your phone. I stand up and give him a heartfelt lecture. At the same time, I boldly pay only for my share. Peng Deng and I aren't hypocritical friends who insist on footing the bill. Furthermore, it's the end of the month. Finances are always a little tight during this time of the month. F***ck, you didn't even give me a bottle of Coke. It only took this long before Peng Dang realized it. I'm done eating. I pick up the umbrella leaning against the table. Extravagant. Peng Dang appraises my choice of buying a bottle of Coke. Something good happened to you? Or are you moonlighting? Before he can ask me, his gaze suddenly stops on the umbrella with the rabbit ears in my hand. Hey. He makes a strange sound. My boss lent it to me. You know that he has many girlfriends. I understand what Peng Dang is thinking. How boring. Peng Dang turns his attention back to his phone again. I enter the old compound of my rented apartment after leaving the shop. The tallest building is only 6 stories, so there aren't any elevators. When I pass the entrance to the first floor, I catch a glimpse of the mailbox through the corner of my eye. Some memories churn, making me walk over involuntarily and open the letterbox that belongs to Unit 602. There's a postcard lying quietly inside. Even without looking, I know that she was the one who had sent it. She was a middle school classmate and high school classmate with me and Peng Dang. She later went overseas for studies and is currently working in this city. Her family background is good, and she often travels. From time to time, she'll send local specialties or postcards to friends in the same city. I hesitate for 2 seconds before picking up the postcard. The back is indeed familiar as graceful handwriting is plastered across it. This is the famous Sedlec ossuary around here. I flip the postcard and take a look. The pillars and walls that are lined with skulls make me feel horrified. Then, I feel that strange sense of holiness. Shaking my head, I put away the postcard and return to Unit 602. This is an old apartment with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It has a history of at least 20 years. I live in a guest room, and a young couple lives in the master bedroom. This couple are nice people. Not only do they have a sense of hygiene, but they often cook by themselves and invite me to eat together. The only problem is that they quarrel at least twice a week. It's quite annoying. I plan to move to stay with Peng Dang when the rental contract is over. Of course, the prerequisite is that he hasn't started living with his girlfriend yet. After putting down the umbrella, I go to the window of the guest room. I peek out and look outside, considering whether I should jump. Although the rain has stopped, the sky is already dark and there aren't many pedestrians. 6th floor. Forget it, I'll go to the building with the small supermarket. I think it's better to be safe for the first time. It's only 3 stories. This neighborhood is very old, and it has a large population. Hence, there are plenty of stores on the first floor. There are hairdressers, eateries, as well as grocery stores and repair shops. One doesn't even need to leave the compound to have access to these amenities. I change into black clothes as a protective color and take my keys and phone. I arrive at a small supermarket after circling the compound for a while. I go up the stairs to the rooftop. Looking at the height, I finally feel confident. When I headed downstairs just now, I tried to jump from one flight of stairs to the other. It greatly improved my confidence in that leap of faith. Waiting until there's no one below me, I take a deep breath, climb over the railing fence, and pose in a ready stance. It's raining and the road is very slippery. How about next time? If I fall and get sent to the hospital, I'll die a societal death if everyone misunderstands this as me attempting suicide. It's only 3 stories. There was nothing wrong with the feeling I had just now. After some random thought, I raise my middle finger at myself and exhale slowly. With a tremble, I leap up and adjust my body. The speed I descend at is slower than normal. The wind turns into a blanket, holding me up in silence. This kind of slowness is only relative. I still quickly land on the ground steadily, without wobbling or splashing up the muddy water on the ground. At that moment, I feel like a sharp feather. What a marvelous feeling. 10 points. I praise myself. This is really too exciting. I'm a true blue assassin who has surpassed all mortals. Heart blazing, I dash back to the building where my rented apartment is. I can't wait to test the leap of faith from the 6th floor. The experience just now tells me that 6 floors isn't a problem. If it's any higher, I'll have to be like Jackie Chan, finding items in the middle, like an air conditioner, to break my fall, jumping down several floors at a time. On the way, I widen my eyes in an attempt to find any acts of sexual misconduct by hooligans, robberies by ruffians, or extortions by baddies. I want to let them have a taste of the power of an assassin, but sigh, the security in the neighborhood is really good. I sigh and head home. At this moment, my phone rings twice. I take it out and discover that it's from my company's old AI. It's the information regarding our VIP. Zarathustra, what a complicated name. I smirk and decide on reading the details after another leap of faith. Sigh, even if I'm an extraordinary assassin, I still have to work on stuff my boss instructs me to do after work, like, as the Japanese put it, a shichiku, a corporate cattle. Otherwise, I won't be able to survive. What can an assassin do? Buy a Spider-Man's mask and do a parkour livestream session? Without being in a rush to enter the bedroom. I once again think about how to make money using my assassin abilities. At this moment, someone knocks on the door. Who is it? I ask loudly. I'm here to check on temporary living permits, someone outside replies. I don't have it, goodbye. I lampoon as I walk to the door and look outside through the peephole. 2 people in police uniforms stand outside the door, with one of them standing in front, blocking the face of the other. He has a receding hairline and his eyes are slightly gray. For some reason, I suddenly quiver and feel inexplicably sad. I open the door. My surname is Deng, and I'm the officer in charge of this compound. The gray-eyed officer introduces himself with a smile. Then, he looks at the information in his hand. Zhou Mingrui, am I right? De la mot don van ban mao. No ko nyu ka naila ka Thursday ba. Ka koi kung. I sit by the bed, feeling a little frightened and worried. After a while, I subconsciously pick up my phone and look at WeChat and QQ. Among them, one of the QQ group chats has plenty of messages. It was a group that I built because we play horror and mystery games. It's called the Tarot Club, and it's filled with other netizens. I take a quick scan at it and see someone named The Star send a message, everyone, be careful. A mysterious cult has appeared. De la mot don van ban mao. No ko nyu ka naila ka Thursday ba. Ka koi kung. After confirming the flight details, the chauffeur, the hotel arrangements, and the pickup sign, I do a round of oral practice. By the time I'm done with all of that, it's already 10 in the evening. I feel hungry. I guess I'll go down and buy some snacks. I decide not to treat myself shabbily. As soon as I walk out of the guest room, I hear a quarrel from next door. Of course, it's mainly that lady named Sia Taz, who's shouting at her overseas boyfriend. Don't you get tired of that? Just as I'm about to lampoon, I realize that the quarrel is getting softer and softer. According to my experience, something inappropriate for minors will happen next. Although I'm not a minor, I'm single. After some thought, I return to my room, open the window, and jump onto the window sill before jumping down with great familiarity. In the wind, my body feels light as if all my worries have been blown away. After landing safely, I heave a sigh of relief. I feel like I've completely grasped the power of assassin. The area outside the compound I live in remains lively late into the night. There are a few barbecue stalls, some selling fried rice, some selling stir-fried noodles. Some sell street food, like stewed meat, cold vegetables, duck necks, and crayfish. People who pass by will unknowingly sit down or come in front of a stall before sadly putting on a kilogram. Taking into consideration my little tummy, wait, my tummy seems to be missing. That tiny tummy I've worked so hard to get from all my meals is gone. This is a change brought about by assassin. I feel surprised once again. This gives me a lot more options besides the snacks. I can have barbecue food to celebrate. Forget it. I have to restrain myself. If an assassin is 170 centimeters tall, but ends up being 100 kilograms, wouldn't my target end breaking out into a laughing fit when they see me? I slowly exhale and decide to go to the 24-hour convenience store. To the left is a Family Mart. To the right is Lawson. It's very unfriendly for an indecisive consumer like me. I heard that Lawson has launched a few new types of ice cream recently. I recall and turn to the right. Just as I enter Lawson, my eyes light up as I see a gorgeous woman. Chapter 14:10 In modern-day 8 as an international metropolitan city, there are definitely countless beauties dressed fashionably out on the streets. Even if I don't pay attention to them, I would often find women that catch my attention. But even so, this person that's inside Lawson is a rare gem. I can't help but steal another look after seeing her. Her brown-dyed hair cascades down like a waterfall, and two crystal-like accessories hang from her earlobes. Her eyes sparkle, looking as clear and beautiful as the eyes of deers in forests. She has plenty of charisma. Out of courtesy and habitual shyness, I tear my eyes away from the girl and walk past her to the area where the fridge is. During this process, I can't help but turn around to take a few more looks, but I suppress my actions to avoid offending her. Which ice cream should I buy? I gaze at the transparent sliding door of the cool box and fall into deep thought. Recently, the more popular ones are Fat Crabs, Iron Cauldron Stew. Taking into account my successful weight loss and my need to prevent any rebounds, as well as my tight financial situation at the end of the month, I ultimately chose Fat Crabs. Then, I go to the neighboring room to get a bottle of chilled CR and a packet of cucumber-flavored potato chips. All three combined form my supper for the night. If it was the beginning of the month, I definitely would have bought more. I'll keep them at home and eat them when there's a need. I don't have to go downstairs every time, but there's no need to be so carefree with my expenses now. CEO Huang had once said, "Don't let trivialities take up your most important liquidity." Without any hesitation, I take my snacks and walk to the counter to stand in line to settle the bill. At this moment, I suddenly smell a faint fragrance. In the next second, I turn my head and see the gorgeous beauty walk past 2 rows of shelves. She smiles and says with her eyes shimmering, "Can I add you on WeChat?" Me. I arch my arms a little and express my puzzlement in my speech and pose. I've never had girls ask me for my contact details all my life. That's right. The beauty nods happily and says with a smile, "Your looks and temperament matches my taste. I want to get to know you." If she were to praise me for being handsome or good-looking, I definitely wouldn't have believed her. However, it's not impossible that my looks and temperament matches her tastes. Maybe she likes my type, right? For a moment, I understand what it means to be overwhelmed and flattered. In the next second, I become more wary. Could it be some multi-level marketing scheme? Or some honey trap? As an aficionado of legal shows, a fan of the legal report of many years, I am instinctively wary of good things falling into my lap. As I hesitate, the eyes of that beautiful woman standing in front of me fogs up. It makes me feel ashamed and guilty. Perhaps it's not some multi-level marketing or honey trap. Even if it is, she's just adding me on WeChat. It won't be a problem if I pay more attention in the future. I think for a moment and hurriedly say, "All right." I turn around and place the bottle of CR on the counter before taking out my phone from my pocket. However, when I look at that girl again, she has already disappeared. It's not as if I can't see her. I can still see instances of her back appearing through the cracks of the shelves. What about appreciating my looks and temperament? How did you have a change of heart so quickly? Just as this thought flashes through my mind, I heard a chime. The door of the convenience store opens automatically, and a figure walks in. It's Officer Deng, who had checked on my residence permit in the evening, but he has already changed into casual wear. He walks to the front desk and tugs at the bottom of his black jacket's bottom. He says to the staff, "A cup of coffee." As he speaks, Officer Deng turns to look at me. "Are you footing your bill?" Before he can finish, he pinches his forehead. You are Zhou Mingrue, Officer Deng. "We just met this evening," I reply with a smile. At that moment, from the corner of my eye, I catch the woman leaving the convenience store. She gave up striking up a conversation with me and ran off in a hurry because she saw Officer Deng. Is she really involved in multi-level marketing or pulling a honey trap? Feeling regretful and puzzled, I hand over the items in my hand to the shop assistant and say without minding, "Give Officer Deng his coffee first." The shop assistant spends some time making the coffee before giving it to Officer Deng. He gives me a friendly smile and heads out with the cup in hand. After taking a few steps, he stops and says with a self-deprecating smile, "I forgot to remind you that the cult will use all kinds of means to approach the target. Be careful." Cult. Suddenly, I am aware of a possibility. Could that beauty from before be from that cult? She hit on me because I drank the assassin beverage and became their target? This method really makes it impossible to guard against. They actually used a honey trap. I'm alarmed. With Officer Deng about to turn around and leave the convenience store, I rush forward and say to him, "Just now, a woman wanted to add me on WeChat." Officer Deng doesn't laugh at me. He asks very formally, "What does she look like?" "Very beautiful, more beautiful than many celebrities." I give a simple description and conclude, "I don't think I have the charm to make a beauty hit on me." Not bad. Many victims only get deceived because they feel that they are very charming, says Officer Deng with a smile. We will track and investigate this. As for you, you should just try your best. Try not to speak to strangers as depicted in television dramas. Speaking is fine, just don't establish more connections. My heart warms as I nod vigorously. All right. After seeing Officer Deng leave, I return to the counter to settle the bill. I take the snacks and walk to the entrance of my residential compound. Along the way, after passing the barbecue stall, the strong fragrance inundates my nostrils again. It tempts me to sit down and order a pile of food. I sweep a glance, and I see a group of gangsters. They're sitting on simple plastic stools at the barbecue stall, waiting for the food to be cooked. Their hair is dyed in all sorts of colors, and it's obvious that they're punks following the scene subculture. If it were in the past, I definitely would have upped my pace and widened my distance to avoid any unnecessary conflicts. But now, I'm looking forward to them making things difficult for me. I want them to have a good taste of an assassin's prowess. Just then, one of the hoodlums glances at me and stands up abruptly. Holding a stack of paper, he jogs towards me. I'm thrilled and begin to imagine what pose I should put on later. The charred yellow-eyebrow hoodlum quickly comes in front of me and says, "Hi there, perhaps you would be interested in dream tutoring classes." Dream tutoring classes? This development is completely different from what I expected. As he speaks, the hoodlum hands a flyer to me. Our dream tutoring classes covers many topics. Even if you're already working, you can learn things from the courses to improve yourselves and even switch careers. I blankly receive the flyer and subconsciously ask, "Are you a tutor?" "Yes, I'm a foreign language teacher." The hoodlum smiles arrogantly. "My surname is De." Before he can finish his sentence, a few of the hoodlums shout, "Danny, the food is ready. It's time to dig in." Asterisk asterisk. The hoodlum in front of me turns around and flips his middle finger before running back. I shake my head in disappointment and wrap my snacks in the flyer before entering my compound and return to my rented apartment building. As this place is old, there are a few lamps along the stairs that are out. Some of the floors are dark. I have to take out my cell phones to turn on the flashlight function before I can see where I'm placing my feet clearly. The surroundings are very quiet. My phone suddenly flashes a few times, turning extremely dim. At the same time, I feel a cold wind blow past me,